Welcome everyone to Kingpins or Coffee with the Kingpins. We've had a few technical challenges this morning, but I'm happy to say that we solved it. In any case, I have the honor of having Dr. Laurence Brock once more on my channel, and he is going to divulge some more information. He actually recently published his book, Autobiography of a Healer Near-Death Experience, that in a few weeks it became Amazon's bestseller. So welcome, Lawrence. So good to have you.
Thank you for having me. So, yeah, I actually published another book since then.
Oh, you
And
did? I'm behind.
for full disclosure, it wasn't number one on all of
Oh,
Amazon. It was number one on spiritual book and self-care or something like that. But yes,
okay.
nice.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
Yeah,
So, what I would like you to do, even though we've had other interviews before, but for those viewers that have not met you yet, would you give
okay.
us a little background of about where you were born and what happened and how all this came to light?
Well, I'm assuming you're talking about my near-death experience, which was definitely a really big shift in my life. But looking back, I realize my spiritual journey or my connection to spirit really started when I was much younger. I just really wasn't paying attention to it.
All right.
Um, and so I was born in Portchester, New York, in Portchester Hospital, which maybe a year ago got knocked down. So it was kind of an emotional thing for me, but there's
Mm,
like an office building there now or something like that.
right.
But my near-death experience happened in 1976. I am 71 now, so I was in my early 20s back then. I had been living in Colorado and came back to the Northeast to visit my parents.
Hmm.
And I was at a party drinking and smoking pot. And it was in the 1970s where I don't even think I ever thought about driving when I was drinking or smoking. Now it's illegal and everyone's very aware of it, but I didn't think that I was too high to drive. And I was at the party. I had kind of a plan. Again, even doing this nowadays wouldn't be considered totally proper, but um, the girl had, so the party was really, I still remember it was very crowded. There were all these 20 somethings in there listening to music, dancing. It was loud and people having a really fun time. And I kind of wanted to ask the girl who was having the party out, but I realized, so I came up with a plan. I would say I was too high to drive and leave my car there so I could go back the next day and ask her out. So I had my friend drive me back to my parents' house. Almost all the way there, I realized my sister needed to use my mom's car for work the next day. So I went back, got my car. I went into the party to tell the girl that I was taking my car because I had told her I was going to leave it there. I remember leaning over to like yell in her ear to tell her and walking through the crowd to get to the door. I don't remember. I have glimpses that started a couple of years ago. Before it was I was in the party leaving and then all of a sudden, but I some memories came back where I have a glimpse of walking down the path to my car. The next thing I remember, I was out of my body in the white light, feeling really nice. So I was looking down on my body. It was leaning against a tree with my legs out. There was a officer crouching over me. The car was there. It was so smashed. When I did go back to see the car, when I got out of the hospital and I looked at it, it was amazing that I survived because it was so smashed. Uh, my experience was way more kinesthetic, feeling than knowing. I really had no idea what was going on. It wasn't like near death experiences were a thing back then.
Right.
I'm not even sure how long it lasted because when I tell it, the story takes like a minute, but it feels like it was way longer than that. It felt the there was a timeless element to it, and it just being there and a part of everything.
Did the
It was kind
paramedics later on tell you like how long you were out or
No. So
no?
the only medical information I got was kind of vague. So when my dad first got to the hospital, he said he was able to see me and he saw my head, like the skin peeled and he could see inside my head. And um, then, so I got better pretty quickly and I had some flashes of kind of coming to over 3 days, but I didn't really become conscious till then. When I was about to leave the hospital, there was like a meeting with my mother, my father, the general practitioner, and the surgeon. And they were telling me what I can't do and how to take care of myself. And then the a neurologist did the surgery, and he was walking and he put his face very close to mine, and he said, "You're lucky." And
Hmm.
he didn't say to be alive, but I know that's what he meant. So I didn't get really any medical information whatsoever.
Right.
Again, nowadays, doctors are kind of supposed to give you more information, although they don't always. Back then, it wasn't even considered the best practice to give the family or the patient the information. So
So you
the,
saw the white light. At what point did you realize that there were like outward, like spiritual connections happening, or that you had more intuition or abilities?
well, part of it was I could see things from before that. So it wasn't like all of a sudden. So I had always been able to see people's energy field and see colors around them. I kind of assumed everyone did. I
Okay.
also had a very strong knowing about spiritual love.
Right.
And I remember even thinking when I was younger, like, why isn't everybody acting from that place? I assumed everyone knew that. Okay.
Right.
And um, but so I was in the white light. Behind me, there was a big circle of white, and there was a full silhouette of a being in there that was all these different shades of white. And then the being behind me said, "You have to go back. Your father wants you to stay."
Hmm.
I knew right at that moment the father was God, not my physical father. I went back into my body, and then I came to 3 days later. Um, I didn't really make that big a deal out of it. I didn't even know what to think about it. And it was really like, oh, I got to get back to my life and get to work and stuff like that. And things just happened kind of to me more than me choosing to do them. One of the super coolest things happened. So I went back to Colorado when I was well enough. My mom bribed me by buying me a new Jeep to come back and go into my dad's electrical contracting business. Shortly after that, this woman showed up at my door. Someone knocks on the door. I pretty much assume it's a delivery and I don't even answer it. But back then it was normal for people to just show up. And right away she said, I'm the sister of a friend of yours from Colorado. My sister told me some interesting things about you, and I know someone who teaches about what happens after we die, and I want to introduce you to him.
Interesting.
So, but she just showed up. I wasn't looking for answers or anything.
Right.
And she introduced me to him, and so for like the next 10 years, I studied a lot with him, spiritual things and healing things.
Well, like they say, the universe is at play at all times, right? I mean, things happen that we have
Yeah.
no idea, but it's just like I feel, every day I feel more and more that the spirit universe has a hand in, all the different things that happen in our lives. And
Oh,
then
everything.
we have
Yeah.
it, yeah, and then we have a choice. Either we ignore it or, we walk the path. Yeah.
Well, in my case, I was kind of trying to ignore. I wasn't trying to ignore it. It was just it. I don't know, it was just you got to go through life, you know what I mean? And but the part of not, yeah, the part, yeah, there. When I look back, it's kind of, I'm still kind of naive because I look at people and really see the good in them, and sometimes they don't act from that place at all. So
Right.
it's curious, but I think so in the last book I wrote was called From Near Death to Heaven on Earth: Tools
Mhm.
for Living in Your Divinity. And there are three chapters about me and my experience, and the rest, there's a meditation, there's a few meditations and other exercises and practices for people to do. Um, but I was just,
This is your
I,
latest book that you published.
what's that?
This is your latest book that you published, number two?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
just like 2 weeks ago. Yeah,
Okay. Congratulations.
thank you. I forgot what I was going to say, but part of the way I wrote it, I I'm really proud of my writing because when I was younger in school, I barely got by in writing classes. I mean,
Okay.
if I got a D, I'd be happy, kind of thing. And I learned how to be a good writer. So people always tell me your book's written so well, and it's kind of nice. But it gives me a chance to really get very clear about it. So when I was working on my doctoral treatise, the instructions were write it for an eighth grader.
Uh-huh.
And I learned that that's really a good way to write because I'm talking about spiritual things that are, my perception is I know about them, but people are reading it from a much less aware point of view. Some don't know anything about it. So you kind of have to spell it out in a way for someone like they don't know anything about it.
Right. For them to
But
understand, right?
but my not knowing was a real gift. And the teacher that woman introduced me to was a Sufi sheikh. And he would say to me a lot, you don't need to know that. Or he would totally ignore me when I asked him questions.
Mm.
But it is our mind gets in the way of knowing spiritual things. So, in knowing that I don't know it in my mind is a gift to be open to the wisdom and the knowledge as opposed to knowing in your mind.
So it's really aligning with the energy and going with the flow of,
Yeah,
what you
yes,
sense and what you feel. Yeah. Yeah.
which is
So it's
sometimes easy.
interesting. Yeah. So it's interesting. Your first book was your journey, about the near-death experience. And it sounds as though this second edition is kind of helping people to get to a point of where they can be more in touch with their higher self and with source.
Yeah, so it's actually, I wrote a book before that. I published a book that was kind of a modified version of my doctoral treatise.
Hmm.
When I started to get serious about the second book I published, I realized I had already written a book basically, and I just took out some of the things in there that the school said needed to be in there, but
Right,
wouldn't really mean anything to the public. And so it was easy to publish that because I already had it. When you write a doctoral paper, you hire someone to edit it and everything and help you make sure it's
right.
really clear.
So
So
what,
yes, yeah,
fantastic. Yeah, that's
yeah,
fantastic. So, so since then, since your book has been out there, many people have bought it. You also have a YouTube channel and you're on
yeah.
Instagram and Facebook and you sharing, videos. What are some of the interesting comments that you have gotten in regards to your book?
Well, what I everyone that's talked to me about it said how well it's written, and that part I'm really proud of. A lot
Mhm.
of people, I just had really amazing mystical and magical experiences, some of them in the healing work I do,
Right.
and some of them with teachers I studied with. So, um, today, just before this, I was doing the service on a Unity church online, and
Okay.
two people came on that are because of me, and both of them were uh, uh, um, just said some really nice things about how uh, it's because I look at it like it's ordinary and normal. And I still think that way, but then they have these spiritual experiences by looking at my videos or
Right,
um, things like that. And I'm just really happy to hear it. In one way, I've learned to like step back and look at it and not be egotistically involved and be able to really appreciate how I help people. A
right,
lot of times in my mind, I'm not really understanding how much I help people. I know when I see what I see and I help people that things are lining up, but unless I hear about their feedback in the physical world, I don't assume it's fixing that
right,
because the there's two parts of assuming in spirit. One is that Sufi Sheikh would say assumption is the red death, which when you're assuming things in the physical world, it's kind of like that because they just go how they go. The other one is that there's an assumption law in spirit. If you can fully assume something, like when you're trying to manifest, then it manifests.
right,
So I don't want to assume what I do is going to have some result in the world until I know that.
right. Well, that's important because I mean, and I think that's something that we come to understand is, initially, I think as a younger person or as a child, we assume that everyone feels or thinks the same way we do. And as you
Yeah,
grow up, you realize that no, that's not the case. And yeah, you definitely need feedback and confirmation to understand. That brought into my mind as well as I think I don't ask people as much feedback as I need. I just do what I do, and
yeah.
you know, so yeah, that's important.
Well, you want to trust that it's doing something good, but
Yeah,
it's the part of for me being open in my mind is just so important because I work many different ways. Like
right,
sometimes it does sound very psychological, sometimes it's way more spiritual, sometimes it's, so I'm open to working in the way that's best for the person.
right.
So in the spirit, these beings come in to help. Until maybe 6 months ago or so, almost always they were just very different, way more about the person I was working with.
Hmm.
Since then, there's been some consistency, and I know that these are spiritual beings that work with me, and then there's some that are more there to be there with them.
Right,
And but I want to be open to that. It would be kind of in one way easy if, oh, I just know what this is all the time, but
right,
in spirit things are way more than we could know. They're moving more. And plus we're such amazing manifestors that as soon as we start to think something, it starts to happen.
right,
When something we try to solidify something and get it not to move in the spirit so we could get a better look, the negativity can come in because
right,
that things not moving is more of the physical level and not the spiritual level.
right. Um, do you feel that there is a shift right now? Do you feel that, like on a daily basis, we're like becoming more and more manifestors? And do you also feel that by being balanced and aligned, that you actually encourage those energies to come in as opposed to being fearful, where you kind of put an energetic wall up and then it's kind of more difficult to receive that energy? So that's basically two
Yeah,
questions in one.
yeah, it's a lot of questions. So I think, well, it's kind of tricky because even within what we're manifesting, how do we make sure it's in line with our highest good, which would be in line with our karma? But um, So there's so many that you just ask a question that I could write a whole nother book about.
Mm,
But it is, and there's something about being pure in your heart that lets you it's good to manifest, but then don't be attached, especially about other people, because we don't want
Right.
to control them. But um, and to
So the
me, I'm
best
always
way,
looking. What's that?
so I would say that the best way is to put it out there with an intention for my highest good or
Yes,
for their
that's right.
highest good. Yeah.
Right. For me, I'm always trying to get clearer inside to and be more open to the highest good.
Hmm.
And it's still, it's okay to ask for things. It just
Right.
sometimes can you be open to maybe that's not for the highest good.
Right.
I do think there's a lot. I think the challenge between the good and evil is really elevating now. So I don't like to say evil, but there is a lot of fear and negative energy
Yeah.
around with what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And it takes an extra bit of determination.
Right.
I was just writing something about that in a way to get clearer to how to explain it to a client. But
Right.
over the past year, I have felt that I need to really put the extra effort into my spiritual work, into clearing myself, also making sure my money is being put into good things because
Mhm.
part of us is very attached to our money
Right.
and it's kind of where our money goes, some of our energy goes. So
Right.
you know, um, that's part of what I was, and I noticed that for myself. So what I've been doing the last 3 weeks is every morning checking what I'm doing with my money to make sure I'm putting it into what I want to be manifesting and into good and into God.
Hmm.
It's a big thing.
In
I think it's really important to do that, And so I bought this house a few years ago and I was doing some remodeling, and one of my friends on Facebook, who's actually a very famous person, said something about a company and how they were, you know, supporting things I don't believe in, politically. And so I stopped using that company because it
right.
just was very important to me.
Yeah. 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 So yeah, I think well I have to say I feel that the source energy is getting stronger, and I feel that whoever is more in tune with their spiritual growth are becoming stronger and stronger manifestors.
Yeah,
And yes, absolutely, we don't know as a human being in 3D what is for our highest good. But I always feel, and that's how I always ask when I'm praying, with the intention for the highest good of
yeah,
all,
yeah,
basically. I think that's really important. And also, with what's going on right now, I just feel like the fact that we see so many negative things going on in the world, it's because it has to reach a certain point before everything shifts. You know what I mean? So I actually
yeah,
look at it as a good thing. And then, I feel that as human beings, we have a choice whether we want to go towards the light or whether we want to be bound by fear.
yeah,
So I think that I haven't looked at your second book, but I feel that that's great that you're putting steps in for people who are looking, because there's so many people who are looking, like, how can I
yeah,
deprogram myself, or how can I evolve into a better human being, or how can I manifest good things for myself and my family.
yeah, yeah,
And I also see, unfortunately, there are people who are stuck to their old habits just because of fear or ego. And
yeah.
that to me is sad, but that's their choice. So we can't do anything about it.
Well, it's also important to trust that it's their spiritual process and
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's what they have to go through. And
Right.
in one way, it's that thing, there for the grace of God go I. So to be grateful for what you've done in other lifetimes to get to this point and what
Right.
you're doing in this lifetime. I know for me, I want to appreciate, and those are gifts from God. So appreciate the goodness in me, appreciate that I in one way that that woman showed up at my door.
Right,
There some of it that definitely seems to happen outside of at least my conscious awareness that leads me to these great things. So
right.
it's
And
kind
I
of
think,
being lucky. So
yeah, but it's also, I think it's the practice of having gratitude on a daily basis that you become a magnet to
totally.
attract. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I like to practice. So I do journal writing every day, and some of it is what am I grateful for? What am I grateful for inside of me? Like, what are my skills and abilities I'm grateful and qualities I'm grateful for? Things of so inside of me and outside of me. What am I grateful
Right.
for, basically?
So, what are some of the changes you've noticed working with your clients recently in the last year, maybe?
Yeah. Well, I I noticed you made a comment on one of my videos that I posted because it was funny because I was kind of whining to myself that I hadn't had any miracles.
Right.
And in a way, I mean, in one way, there's always shifts and things, but when someone heals physically very quickly, to me, that's just such proof. And I was whining to myself about it. And I say whining because, first of all, I was saying miracles, even to think of what I do as a miracle is
Right.
pretty, I don't know, it's kind of funny. But so anyway, this woman wrote me a text. It came, like in the next day, this woman sent me a text saying, I want to make another appointment. The energy shifted and I'm able to walk. And she said, I haven't been able to walk in 7 years. And I remembered who she was, and she was been stuck in her apartment for years. And I
Wow.
met she somewhere out in the Midwest, I think, and there was just a lot of yellow energy that came in, and it was very, very bright all around her. And I remember thinking at the end, oh, good, she's starting her healing journey. I did not know that she was gonna and then she ended up making an appointment and it ended up she was walking every day for like an hour. At first it was just 15 minutes. She was having to use like two poles, but that's still, and then she said, I can go to the supermarket. I just hold on to the cart. But compared to being not, barely being able to get up and around her
Right.
apartment, and that's to me like a miracle. So that's something that happened.
Yeah. That's great.
I mean, I really have things all the time. Trying to remember, this is a child of someone who's my client, and um,
The person who couldn't walk?
no, no, this is
Oh,
another person
oh, I
who's
see.
starting to have a lot of problems. A part of it was with their muscular system.
Hmm.
I mean, the woman sent me this list of symptoms, like 20 things long, and then so she hired me to work on him. And a lot of times I'll do with kids is, I feel a little more responsible, I guess, for kids than grown-ups in a certain way. So I was working on him every day for a while, and all of a sudden he was just so much better.
Right.
And but some of it is how he felt and just his willingness to do things. And but physically, he just wasn't in pain all the time. It was great.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I worked with you for many years, and I had my son work with you for many years, and yeah, there were major, major shifts that
Yeah.
happened. Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, when the things shift physically, it's very clear. When there's spiritual or emotional shifts, it's a little like, oh, I feel better. It's not the same as when someone goes from not walking to walking. I mean,
right,
I've just had a lot of, so I write a lot about the physical things because to me, it helps people understand this more esoteric and almost elusive thing, the spiritual healing, even though it's true and real, you know, it's not as concrete. It's not as something
right,
where it is like, wow, that's super amazing.
right. So, what has been the feedback as far as the second book that you published? When did you publish that exactly? Have you had
So
enough?
there's three books. One is
Oh,
about the breathing exercise I developed. One is
okay.
about the one that's it's called Autobiography of a Healer. That's
Right.
about the first 10 years of my life after my near-death experience.
Right.
And then the third one is the Heaven on Earth one.
Mm,
I, you know, I published it a couple of weeks ago. I ordered a copy. And before I do any publicizing, I want to read through the copy to make sure it's done the right way.
right.
And I haven't
And
totally done that yet, so I haven't worked. I mean, a friend of mine was reading it and she said, "Wow, this is really great." And, and said, "Can I take this?" I said, "Well, I only have one copy right now." So um, I haven't gotten that much feedback about the most recent book, but even I go to an acupuncturist and I brought her one of my books. And then I had an audio version of it made, and I said to her, "Would that be easier?" And she said yes. So she listened to it, and she was just talking about how the description of the spiritual things, one of them describes the whirling dervishes ceremony that one of the ones I was a part of. And
right.
she said, I just felt like I was in the room, with the colors and the lights and the dancing and the motion and the music.
Right.
Um, from that book, I've got a lot of nice
Yeah.
comments. A lot saying how well it's written, a lot is how many experiences. I've had more mystical, magical experiences than most people.
Well, I would be interested to find out, what kind of feedback you get, because
Yeah,
that is very revealing. Yeah.
well,
So,
that's what I get. I mean, I haven't gotten any feedback saying this is total BS. I can tell you
well,
that.
I'm sure you wouldn't know. No, the reason the
Yeah,
reason I'm asking that is because that is like a step by step path to growth. I'm
yeah,
just interested to see what kind of comments you're getting and feedbacks as far as, how it's helped people. That's very interesting. So,
yeah. I
yeah,
haven't. I haven't
yeah,
specifically heard any of that, but a lot of it is. Um, just these things happening to me, to tell you the truth. I mean,
right,
I obviously was choosing into them, but
right,
there were like that woman showing up, even, you know, something in me was drawing me towards doing it, but
yeah,
the what actually happened was more than I could ever imagine, so
right,
many times over and over again.
right,
Uh,
right,
and I hope that gives people permission. I mean, something I tell people, meditation and journal writing are really important.
right,
A lot of times people, when I'm teaching classes, I mention meditation and go, "Oh, I can't get my mind to be quiet." I say that doesn't matter. Just sit down and do it.
mhm,
I've been meditating most days for more than 40 years, and some days my mind just doesn't shut up. But
right,
I take the time. It's kind of like it's just I'm giving this time to God and
right,
my relationship with God and my spiritualness, and it is like I'm taking a break from cleaning the house, making money, making videos, all that stuff. It's like this time is set aside for that, and
right.
so you're dedicating part of your life, and that part is what's really important. And so,
Yeah, like for me personally, meditation has always been a challenge, but I notice when I incorporate breathing
yeah,
and meditation, that really, really, because my mind is going 1,000 miles a minute.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so that is something that
Right.
quiets
How do
the
you
mind.
work with your mind? And
Right.
so the meditation I suggest has breathing,
Hmm.
focusing on your heart or your third eye, internal chanting, and then listening and being open.
Right.
And, the breathing and the chanting and the focusing is getting your mind to behave a bit.
Right.
Sometimes I'm doing that and my mind still doesn't shut up. And then all of a sudden this energy comes in and it's like, oh, now it's easy, even though it didn't seem to me like I was doing a good job, I
Right.
was. So
Yeah.
I was lining up with that, even though in my mind I didn't know it.
Right.
And I tell that to people all the time because, again, it's you take that time and be open and say, "Here I am, dear Lord. How can I be of service? How can I help you? And can you possibly help me? And
Yeah,
a lot of times the answer is yes.
right. So this has been really, really interesting. Thank you, Lawrence, and I wish
You're
you
welcome.
all the very best.
Thank you.
Now, before we end, any revelations, any golden nuggets that you can share with the viewers?
So I mentioned the thing about money, and I've been looking. So I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I try to look back and see what I could improve on. I'm not very good at committing to things unless I'm really feeling inspired, so I don't do that. But I was noticing I could be a little more diligent in putting my money towards spiritual things. So I have been checking, I think I mentioned checking every morning. And in one way, that's like letting the part of my life that I don't always think of as spiritual to make sure it is spiritual. Like I'm dedicating my whole life to doing that.
Right,
I mean, the meditation and journal writing and just start to do it. Even if you think you're totally messing it up, doing it really helps.
right, definitely. So, one last question. So, since you journal, do you sometimes feel like you get messages as you're writing?
I do, yes,
Yeah.
but I'm not journaling for that purpose.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways to do, well, I do journal writing on the computer. I mean, there
Oh,
are ways to write that are geared towards kind of channeling. That's not what I do on a regular basis.
right.
You
No,
know, I think that,
I have books and books where I write
yeah,
in handwriting, and sometimes it's difficult even to read my handwriting because it's going so fast. But yeah,
yeah, I type because my handwriting is terrible, but I like to type. No, I process things. It gets my head on straight.
right.
So first I write about some things that I know. So sleeping, I've been sleeping really well for a while, but when I was younger, I didn't really sleep enough and I'd get up and start doing stuff. So I would write about that to remind me to go back to sleep, basically.
Hmm.
Within there, I'll write about dreams because I think things come through in dreams.
Right,
I'll write about emotionally, my probably my worst habit is worrying. So I'll write about that and kind of first write out what I worried about. And
right,
sometimes it's so ridiculous and kind of remind myself that I'm a spiritual being and
right,
not to choose into that.
right,
The other one, I'll just check my body to see if anything, and it's not really to fix any of those things. It's just
right.
starting to observe and get my consciousness into it. Then I will do a lot of stuff about gratitude and then set my goals for the day
Hmm.
in our spiritual work and out in the world.
Right. Well, thank you for joining me
Thank you.
again. It was a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to the future once you get some feedback on your um, special book. Thanks so much, Lawrence. Great to have
Thank
you.
you.
Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you. Same to you.